Welcome back to the Venari podcast. I'm Gov Kandola, and today we are joined by Vieran Hodko, who is an expert within brand development and growth initiatives, most recently within the mobility space. Vieran, welcome.
Hey, Gov. Thanks for having me. Hi.
I appreciate you being on. And I think for this episode, we're going to do something slightly different. Rather than focusing on a specific industry topic, we thought it'd be good to discuss the idea of navigating a career change during the pandemic, some top tips and discussing some of the myths that, really dismissing some of the myths that surround it as well. So Vieran, until recently, you were in a leadership position at a very successful mobility startup that was growing during the pandemic. But you decided to make a change. What made you want to consider a move at that time?
That's a great question, Gov. One thing that I've been thinking about for a while, and I realize is that, we're in a society right now, we're in a movement where it's highly promoted that people should be entrepreneurs, right? And I realized over this time that entrepreneurship is not for everybody. I think it takes certain types of personalities and experiences to navigate those waters. But what I can tell you is I think everybody should go through the thrills of working for a fast-paced, high-growth startup. And that's what this was. It was a really phenomenal experience, really wear multiple hats. And it's like for anybody who's young and trying to develop into what they want to later, it's a great experience. And for me personally, I have fears had fears rather than public speaking. And within a week of working there, I was shot to one of the, biggest car events in the world and pitching in front of thousands of people. And then later in China and at TechCrunch and meeting the mayor of Paris. So a really great experience with lots of highs, but also it comes over a sustained period of time with some lows and, dealing with the pandemic and other secondary impacts of that and distance and loved ones. After a certain time, you look at being exposed to this, what else is out there, and all kinds of great impact tech and solutions. And for myself, it's also about looking, which other companies or ventures I could help grow in the same manner.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's some would say a brave decision to make the move, because as you said, doing incredibly well in that position as well. But it's one of those ones, as you said, there's ups and downs. But in terms of navigating this next move, I suppose for yourself, how did you begin that journey?
In this case, I was actually fortunate that even slightly before exiting, I had something sort of lined up, but at the end it didn't work out. And then I think one just comes to a conclusion that you're just not ready. And for myself personally, I came to this conclusion that I needed to take some time to just rethink and really quite literally take some time off. and which was great and took its due course. But to answer directly, for me, it all started when, I put that LinkedIn post, hey, I'm leaving, and just an overwhelming response from not only colleagues, investors, partners, but also other people who started to contact me afterwards. So that was, I think, the beginning part of it.
And I think, we've had discussions on it as well, and, back and forth and getting to know each other and understanding what your journey looks like and really, what would interest you moving forward as well. And I know that you've got some great tips in terms of, not only navigating this piece, but things that maybe some of our other candidates should be aware of or even doing themselves.
Sure. Yeah. The irony in all this is for the last, I think, 6-7 years, my primary job or what I was paid for was to network. And I found myself not knowing how to network myself. So I think it becomes quite easy when you have such an inspiring vision or mission, product, service to, over time become an expert in that. And I was able to do that in a couple of industries now, but I had to kind of relearn to market myself, which was an intriguing process. One of the things that happened to me along the way that really stood with me was a friend of mine communicated with me and said, I've never applied for a job in my life. And I said, how do you become one of those people? And also, friends that I know that have been headhunted and got offers, and she just plainly said, just do this, have coffees with people. And I think one of the results of the pandemic or our situation was that many people were, for 12, 18 months inside their living room working. And one of the things that was enabled when things were safer and the vaccinations came a lot more broadly was the ability to ask people out for a coffee. So I think my number one tip, or my most successful tip, was the ability to even contact strangers who I know that we have certain traits in common or certain industry crossroads, just for a coffee and get some input and talk not just about my CV, but about our common passions and worries. And that helped accelerate a lot of things. It helped me jump lines in terms of, not having to go through standard application forms. Another one I would guess is just practice interviewing. I mean, it's a two-way road, as you've told me many times, and we've spoken. They're also looking for candidates, but you also have to vet if the venture or the project is something you want, to take as many interviews as you can just to get that range and that practice, and having, especially later on in the processes where you have to go specific on some of your experiences, to have that lined up and have that studied.
Definitely. Yeah, I think when we were speaking, having, as you described it, a sparring partner, there's someone you exchange ideas and you can get some honest feedback. And, I think that's the best way you can learn as well. I think I described to you when we first started speaking, I said, we may not have a role straight away, but it's very much to do with getting to know you, understanding what's really going to motivate you moving forward, because it's not like you just decided or left a position. You made that career change because you wanted something new. You wanted to build, maybe what you've done in the past, but in a new environment. So it's finding out what's going to tick all those boxes for you, what's going to get you excited for that, Monday day at work. So yeah, I think having those conversations, being completely honest with each other, being transparent. And as you said, by having these types of conversations, even via video chat, which is great because, more interviews are now being done. Getting that practice is essential.
Definitely. And I think that was, for me, one of the turning points. I did work with different organizations or recruitment agencies or others that I had in contact. And I think I had mixed experiences with that. And you and I came in contact with a previous venture, but I think, like you said, going through and building that sort of trust, that rapport, that transparency, and helping you navigate that direction in which you as a candidate want. And I think one of the things so far that I've really appreciated through time enabled you new talent, and you've also shared insights with me. So we've opened doors and that's what relationships should be, a bi-directional thing. And I've also shared, sometimes even frustrations with you, which maybe I'll add in now as a late tip. But one of the things that for me really stood out in this whole process is where am I now versus where I want to be. And on two occasions, and one was enabled through a contact of ours, it was a position that I still was a bit overwhelmed, that I'm like, oh, wow, this is one, maybe two levels still in front of, and did not feel out of place. It was just there, going quite far. And I think it's one of these confidence builders that even if it didn't work out and it it's going to be there, right? And it gives you like a preset of like, okay, this is where I'm heading, this is where I'm going. And I think sharing those experiences with you and your team and getting that bilateral feedback, it really helps in, like you mentioned, a sparring partner to navigate. It's more about the long game and not about the next move, right? It's not about, because I think it's one thing I've learned too is it's non-realistic to say it's going to be right away the dream job, right? Because we tend to monumentalize this. But I think it's more about building towards that dream career or whatever it may become.
Exactly. It's not going to be over the first hurdle. It's, understanding the individual, getting a better, insight to what's really going to motivate you. And I know that in terms of the insights you've just given us now, it's going to be so useful for candidates who are currently in the same position or thinking about a change as well. So look, Vieran, I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. I know it's a busy one, and thank you again for sharing your insights.
My pleasure, and thanks for having me on. And really, if it can help somebody understand that it's not so scary, and there's a lot of things that are just happening differently, as you also were a great informant about, in terms of tendencies and trends such as remote work and others that make it a lot less scary and flexible. So my pleasure, and thanks for having me on.
No, thank you.